Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Justin Young. He is Josh Tec. Sans hat today, by the way, Josh.
Yeah, no hat, no hair. It's summertime. You know what I'm saying?
It's the
it gets hot in
summertime.
Georgia. So I just chopped it all off to kind of deal with this Georgia heat. So we'll see if it works.
I like it. If you did it out here in Arizona, you would definitely get third-degree burns on top of your head. So a little different. I'm immediately think of Napoleon Dynamite when he asked Pedro, "Why'd you cut your hair?" And he just says, "I'm hot." And that's when
that's how I feel. Also Hispanic, so it kind of goes hand in hand there.
It's perfect. Does that make me Napoleon? I don't know. I don't know where we're going off the rails, but nevertheless, we're glad to be back with you guys here on the Fast Break. And it's been kind of an eventful week, actually, on the recruiting front for the back end of 2023, actually. And we wanted to kind of do a show about the Bronny James commitment to Southern California over the weekend. And really, this recruitment's been probably one of the most hush-hush I've ever seen in my career. We knew it was going to come down to USC. And I think if you really paid close attention, I think that's where not a big surprise that he's going to USC, staying close to home in Los Angeles, but Oregon Ducks were also involved, as was Ohio State. And if you would have asked me 6 months ago, I would have crystal balled to Ohio State for sure. I felt like it was
same here.
Direction. Yeah.
I was right there with you. Oregon felt distant third to me.
Distant third, no doubt about it. Obviously the Nike connection there, but USC makes a ton of sense with him. He's staying close to home. Obviously LeBron's made no secrets that he's wanting to play with his son in the NBA, which I think is part of the reason I wanted to have a special podcast about the Bronny James decision to talk about the end goal for the young man out of Sierra Canyon. But let's start with the commitment to Southern California over the weekend. He had been on campus a number of times, really kept it pretty hush-hush, dropped a post on Instagram, said fight on. He's in the locker room, and here we go. Bronny James off the board. And I think the question really begs is, do we like the fit, number one, for Bronny James?
I do. I mean, because with Bronny James is a special case, right? It's not just your average run-of-the-mill, 4 or 5 star-ish recruit, top 50 kid. He is, he's got all the fanfare, all the hype, all the hubbub around him, right? And I think a lot of times if he goes somewhere, you can kind of get lost in that shuffle. But I think staying close to home to where he has the grounding of the James family around him, close by him, he has the comforts of home nearby. I think that's going to do a really good job at kind of helping alleviate some of those pressures that come with being one of the greatest basketball players of all time, son, right? And I think, just all the hype around him, I think him staying at UCLA will kind of, or not UCLA, pardon me, USC in LA will help just kind of keep that tempered a little bit.
Yeah. I'm with you. I can't imagine the built-in pressure of being the son of an elite superstar. I covered Michael Jordan's sons when they were coming up. Now their talent didn't quite match the last name, which is an impossible ask, I think, for anybody, right? Like totally bananas to be even in that space. But listen, we've seen a lot of players' sons have a lot of success, right, over the years, whether it was Scottie Pippen's kids or even Kenyon Martin Jr. I mean, there's so many guys you can go down the list of this is the son of XYZ, Tim Hardaway Jr. I mean, I'm obviously forgetting a ton of guys, but this is where I'm actually encouraged by Bronny James because I feel like he's leveled up every single year he's been in high school. Now, they didn't have a great season. I didn't think Bronny himself had a really good season. I wouldn't have voted for him as a McDonald's All-American. I wouldn't have had him as a top 25 guy. I like him maybe just inside the top 50, maybe top 65, which I think is probably the appropriate place. But let's go back to the fit. I think that him going to USC and paired with Isaiah Collier, who's our number one guy, the clear-cut number one guy in the class, is actually the most beautiful place for him to go because expectations are put on the shoulders of maybe somebody else being the number one guy in Isaiah Collier, who I think is built that way to come in and be an instant superstar, instant one-and-done guy, instant all-conference guy for the Trojans, a guy that can help them be successful in the postseason. And Bronny, I don't know if he's really I don't know if he's a guy that I would really expect to go be this elite scorer. You think of the son of LeBron James. Bronny James's game is nothing like his dad. Nothing at all. It doesn't resemble his dad at all. In fact, if you didn't know it was his son, I don't think that you would even put those two together by the style of play. But with Isaiah Collier, and you know Isaiah as good as anybody in the country because you've covered him for so long, how do you think Isaiah Collier, what can Bronny James be? What can he bring to the table to be the best Robin to the Batman of Isaiah Collier? Like, how does
Well, I
that
think
balance out with each other in the backcourt?
Well, I think just kind of helping him with taking some of the pressure off the ball, right? Like you said, Isaiah's going to come in and do his thing right off the bat. Like I think you and I are both very confident
Yeah,
in how well Isaiah is going to be, transition as a freshman at USC. And I think what Bronny can do right off the bat is, he can hit shots. He can be the recipient of Isaiah's phenomenal passing and all of that. But I think it can also just help him alleviate some of the ball handling and some of that kind of stuff. And I think another person that we're forgetting in this whole equation is a really experienced guard in Boogie Ellis, who's really
yeah,
come on
sure.
at USC. And I think that Bronny, he might even be, I think this might be a shock to a lot of people who aren't really in the weeds, but I think he might be a guy that comes off the bench because Boogie Ellis and Isaiah Collier, that's a really tough backcourt to crack the rotation on.
I think he should come off the bench. Honestly, like I don't think that Bronny James's talent level warrants him to play huge minutes as a freshman. Listen, it's hard to be a freshman and play big minutes right out of the gate. And I actually think that Andy Enfield is really, quite frankly, one of the best coaches for a player like Bronny James, where he can kind of handle it. Listen, Andy's been there before. He's had a player like Evan Mobley come in. Like, he's had really good players be at USC. We got to remember, Andy Enfield started in the NBA. Okay, like, he was an NBA background. He was with Leonard Hamilton, and they do a great job of getting NBA type of guys. And obviously, we're down to Florida Gulf Coast, and then now out at USC, which I believe is like his 10th year, 12th year, something crazy that he's been out there in California that long. But I really like this fit because I don't think Andy Enfield is the type of coach either that really has to prove a point. I don't think he's the type of guy that, I think that he would be really, really beneficial for a guy like Boogie, for a guy like Isaiah, and a guy like Bronny to work those guys together and see like the appropriate opportunity for all of those guys.
Yeah, I think Bronny's role immediately is going to just be filling in for one of those guards off the bench, kind of giving them 15-ish, maybe 20 minutes a game, kind of being able to play either guard spot because he is the combo. So he can handle some of the point guard duties. He can handle some of the off-ball duties. So I think it's just him coming in and spelling Isaiah for a period of time. It's him coming in and spelling Boogie Ellis for a period of time, and just being that versatile guard prospect that he is.
I think defensively, Bronny James is phenomenal. I really do. I think he's really, really good on the defensive end. I think he sparks a lot of transition basketball, which I think would yield really well to their current lineup that they have. But I think if Bronny James right out of the gate, I think we'll learn a lot about his trajectory. I think in a good world that he plays 20 minutes a game, honestly, in that rotation. I think that's a really good season for any freshman, to be quite frank with you nowadays. But I don't know. And that's why I think if he goes to Ohio State with his dad being there, I think that's a kind of a crazy situation to walk into. USC kind of lets him kind of blend in a little bit better. You still, if you're on the East Coast, I mean, you're a junkie, so you stay up late and you watch a lot of games. But I don't think a lot of people are going to, stay up past 10 o'clock to watch USC basketball on TV. And I don't mean that any sort of slight, but it's a pretty good place to kind of do your thing and go about your business and go play Pac-12 basketball and really kind of see where it goes. And now it becomes the question of, is he a one and done guy? Because listen, ESPN put him in their lottery, which I really respect Jonathan Givony. I've known him for 20 plus years at Draft Express. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I don't see Bronny James being that guy. Honestly, I don't even think he's a first round guy. That said, there is something to be said about a guy that gets better every single year, that kind of levels up. I think Bronny is probably a late bloomer. 2 years ago, I didn't even think he was a top 200 guy in the country. And now I think he's a top 65 guy in the country. So I think there's been some steady improvement. But yeah, man, it's just something doesn't match up. And a lot of it, people, and I've talked to a lot of people at the pro level, they're all like, I don't know, man. I wouldn't draft him. I wouldn't draft him. So that unfortunate element will follow him wherever he goes,
Yeah, with Bronny, what I would, in my perfect world, personally for me, would be him come in, get 15, 20 minutes, 10, 15, 20 minutes as a freshman, as a sophomore, as a freshman, and then him take that stay and be the guy as a sophomore and take that freshman to sophomore leap that we've seen so many players have that kind of boost their draft stock, right? Like you saw Donovan Mitchell do it. Just being from Louisville, I've seen it twice with Donovan Mitchell and Terry Rozier, two guys that played significant minutes as freshmen, but then came back and really boosted their stock as sophomores and went in the lottery. Both of them went in the lottery. And I think Bronny James can do that because he has leveled up every single year. So I think after he adjusts to playing in college for his first year, he can really take that level up and become a lottery pick eventually in his sophomore year.
See, I don't even know if he lasts longer than a year there. He should.
Oh, I know. That's what I think. That's just my perfect world scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens. And then the other part becomes, would the James family be okay if Bronny's a second round pick? You know?
I, and I think another thing that we have to consider is that there might be a front office out there that just like is like that's not the Lakers. That's like, hey, we'll take Bronny wherever and just try and lure LeBron to play with Bronny. I mean, there is some of that too. Because if you really do think about it, like we've been saying this for years, I don't think that this draft is going to be like particularly strong in the back end, like in the top in the around 30 in the draft. So I think a team can take a flyer on Bronny and just kind of put it, take him and then try and get LeBron with Bronny being on the roster.
Yeah. I think in his very highest ceiling, Bronny James, again, the very highest ceiling, and I think this is very complimentary because I really like this player, is Malcolm Brogdon, honestly. Malcolm Brogdon, was the same way coming out of high school. I covered him. He played at my camps, goes to Virginia. It takes a while for him to kind of find his rhythm. I think he really blossoms in the NBA, gets paid a lot of money, and is the sixth man of the year now for Boston, a really key figure in their playoff run. And I think any team in the NBA would love to have a guy like Malcolm Brogdon. But Malcolm Brogdon, as a 17-year-old, I never in a million years would even thought that he would have the success that he's had. So that's why I kind of like that player comp for a guy like Bronny. And if he had that same sort of career trajectory, then that's a freaking success for Bronny James, to be quite frank with you, But you do agree on the point. Like now we're moving into an NBA podcast, right? Like, does the team draft him to kind of lure daddy to come out and play with them? That's interesting.
I think that is a genuine, real possibility. Like, and that is not a slight to Bronny saying that he's going to be used as bait in a sense, because I do think that he is a good player, but I think that's the reality of the situation. Is I do think that is very much on the table. Like, a team might take him in the back end of the first round and be like, hey, LeBron, like, I know you like your years are winding down. Like, I know you want to go out playing with Bronny, so here's your best opportunity. We're going to take him. You come play with us for 2-3 years, and then boom. Like, I think that's on the table.
I kind of want to see it. I kind of do. Listen, I'm a LeBron guy. I've got people can say what they want about LeBron James. That guy is an absolute champion. I love the way he loves his family. I love how proud he is of his kids. I wish every guy that's in basketball would want these types of things. And I think most people do. I would love to see it. I think it'd be really cool. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if it's realistic, but it would be awesome to see it. I think we should celebrate it. And quite frankly, I think LeBron James has been to have the expectations that he's had and to exceed them along the way. There's no reason why to think that his son can't go play with him, even if it is for a short amount of time. I think it'd be really special. I think it'd be really cool. And I think that's something, quite frankly, that needs to be celebrated if it does happen.
I think it's going to happen. Quite frankly, I really do think it's going to happen. And whether it be like, a rush decision or not, I think that it's someone's going to take Bronny. LeBron's going to opt out of his, the last year of his deal with or whatever. I forgot how contracts work in any sport, but he's going to opt out of his deal with LA, and he's going to go play with Bronny somewhere. I think that's going to be.
I don't know, man. If the Lakers have a second round pick, or they can make a deal to go get a second round pick, I mean, hell, do you even think that he may even get drafted? Which I think is way more possible than it is for him to be drafted. And they can go sign him on a free agent contract. Which, listen, there's a lot of guys that have been a free agent.
Sure, I can see that happening too. I just think that Bronny's going to end up being a one and done kind of guy, and maybe not because he like really just goes out there and kills it at USC. But I think he is just going to be a one and done guy because of the media machine and the LeBron speaking this into existence and teams being willing to be like, all right, LeBron, we got your kid. Like, let's go.
Yeah. How if you lived out here on the West Coast, how much of a priority would it be for you to go for the very first game to see Bronny James play in college?
Whereas
I
should say college. Okay, so in theory, it would be great. But then logistically, I think about it, dealing with LA traffic sounds terrible.
I think the first game's in Vegas, actually, in 1st of November.
Oh, really? Well, that might change a little bit. I was going to say dealing with LA traffic would be terrible. And then dealing with the hype that goes around that, because, that first game is going to actually draw a lot of people because Bronny James is there. And I think just dealing with that whole circus is just a little bit would probably overwhelm me, if we're being perfectly honest. But I think, like, in theory, yeah, I would love to be there and I would love to go to that. Maybe we do a hoop scene a meetup in Vegas and go see it.
I'm not mad at it. I think the UCLA game will be a circle game for me. I
Oh
think
God, dude, that's gonna be
circle game.
crazy. Like,
Yeah.
you know that both of those games, home and away, are gonna be insane. Maybe we meet up there and do it.
I think it's great. Listen, I think Los Angeles basketball is really, really good. I thought, and this is where like Sierra Canyon really wasn't that good this year for what Sierra Canyon's used to doing, which does concern me a little bit. And this is why I've always wanted to kind of put the brakes on this conversation of him being a lottery pick and being this type of player, because he's not. He's just not. And that's okay. I think he's a solid player. And again, if the end goal, the end result is he's like a Malcolm Brogdon, I think that's a wild success for Bronny James's career trajectory. But again, 2 years ago, I didn't think he was a top 200 guy. So to the kid's credit, he's done the work. He's gotten a lot better defensively. I think he does see the floor right away. But ultimately, man, we're bearing the lead, man. Isaiah Collier is the guy. And like that's not going to change for USC basketball.
I think anybody watching this understands that you and I both realize that Isaiah Collier is the guy. We've talked about that ad nauseum at this point. Yeah. We both love him. So I think it's okay that we shine some light on a little known guy named Bronny James.
Well, let us know what you think in the comments below on YouTube, also on Twitter. Mention us or add us or whatever you said. Let us know what you think on how good do you think LeBron James Jr., Bronny James will be right out of the gate as a freshman at USC. Do you think he'll last longer than one season? I don't know. It certainly is a fun storyline. And quite frankly, I think college basketball needs better storylines, and I think this one gives us a good storyline to really kind of see how it all plays out. So we'll see what happens. Appreciate you watching. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, do all those things that you do. Help us out. We try to create some good content for you to watch all the way through. For Josh Tech, I'm Justin Young. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time right here on The Fast Break.